This is a location in the south end of the Evergreen Woods on our 1,000 acres of forest. It's an older portion of the forest. It's dense in epiphytes and mosses. And it has a few interesting characters. And one of them is the presence of some really large trees. Here's an example of one of these trees here. This tree has some nice branch development. And the basal diameter here is over 1 meter across. Put my hand here for some context. In our early historic photos, we see this tree from above. We can see it in the canopy when this site was clear cut in the late 30s. Pick out this exact tree. So even in a relatively young forest, such as this one, we can still have some individual trees left over from previous harvests that are really large. And the development of those trees through the history of this forest might be really important for developing old growth characteristics. This tree has deep furrowed bark. The size of these furrows are deeper than my hand. And then there's another phenomenon that's happening here, which is really fascinating. See if our light changes. This is a little termite cavity in the middle of this tree. And so you can see the little galleries in there where they've used a combination of wood and frass to develop termite gallery. I've been watching this gallery for a little while now, and it looks like the activity on it is kind of stalled. But these large trees open up the capacity for development of cavities like this that will be important nesting habitat for birds, for squirrels, and for a variety of organisms here in the forest. Here we have another similar feature. This is an old legacy stump of a red cedar from early on in this forest history, just nearby our large old growth Douglas fir, or developing old growth Douglas fir. Looking close at this cedar, you see evidence of burn in here. This is charcoal on the inside. And this is reflecting the early forest practice, which used to be common in this region, which was that after the forest was cut, the slash would be burned. We don't see much remnant of that on the forest floor. But as we look at these old stumps, we can see that there's ample evidence in the surviving legacy structures here in the forest. You can imagine the gap that this tree left. This was a pretty large diameter cedar and then burned. The practice of burning slash is not incredibly common in Pacific Northwest forests now, but it used to be widespread at the turn of the last century and into the middle of the last century. Throughout this patch of forest, in addition to large old growth Douglas firs surrounded by deciduous trees, just a whole large number of these old legacy stumps.